Welcome back, everybody. From me, Tim Caple, and Scott Minto has returned to the fold after a week away. And we are here at BT Sport tonight for this. You can see in the background, it's Benfica. We're in the Luz, your home of your favourite team. It's ex-team Benfica. It is Benfica against Famalicão.
Did you miss me, by the way?
Oh, I had Chris Perry last week. Did a fantastic job. We had a lot of Tottenham conversation.
Oh. Don't give me that Tottenham stuff.
Yeah, we did, and we were revelling in it because, of course, obviously they'd done Chelsea, and which was a big moment for us.
Yeah, well done, by the way. How many times have you done that in the last 30 years?
Not very many. Not very many. Excellent performance, though, all round, I have to say, wasn't it, by Tottenham on Sunday, really.
Let's move swiftly on, shall we?
Yes.
I'm not talking about Spurs beating Chelsea.
Right. What we will talk about, though, is what happened after we finished a week ago. We were with Chris Perry for the Benfica game in Vizela. Benfica had to work very hard for that victory that they pulled there in the end, 2-0. But the real drama came afterwards and what happened in the games involving FC Porto and indeed Braga. Now, both of them lost. We've seen the highlights of the game. I mean, Porto could have been 4-0 up in that game before everything went wrong.
They scored in their first, 20 seconds, but rightly ruled out for offside. Scored in, 4 minutes, something like that?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would have predicted that Porto were going to go on to lose that game.
No, you're right.
I personally think the red card on João Mario was harsh. You can argue it's a goal-scoring opportunity, but he's falling backwards, he's hit his arm. I think a yellow card is enough, but I do think there's justification if you want to go for a red, but I personally would have given a yellow. Who else got sent off? Someone else got sent off for 2 yellows. Can't argue with that at Uribe, that's it. So look, you're down to 9 men, and
you've got no chance.
Look, they created enough chances, and even right at the very end, they put the ball in the back of the net again, but were offside. That's a big loss. That's a big loss when you think that Benfica have won and Porto have lost, and that gap now to 8 points makes it even bigger.
But I'll tell you how big a deal that is, because they lost against Inter in Champions League. They lost against Gil Vicente. That is the first time that they've lost back-to-back games, 2 in a row, since August of 2019.
Wow.
Can you believe this? The team that beat them in the league was Gil Vicente.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, it was Gil Vicente, and they lost against Krasnodar in the early European rounds, Champions League. And so it was exactly the same sort of format, League and Champions League.
Well, let's hope they get through, get past Inter.
Right. Let's get right down to it. Is this over now? Is this championship over?
I wouldn't say it's over, but what I would say is I think it could be if you look back at the end of the season, last week could have been seen to be a very, very important week. As I say, 5 points, like in the Premier League, I still think Man City can catch Arsenal, especially when they've got to play each other. And 5 points, technically speaking, Porto could, because you know what they're like. But 8 points, and the way that Benfica are playing?
Right. Benfica have dropped 7 points in 66. You're now asking them to drop 9 in 36.
Half of that.
But if they are going to drop that 9 points, then they do have to play Sporting, they do have to play Porto, and they do have to play Braga. And not only have they got to lose every one of those games, Porto have got to literally win every game between now and the end of the season.
Look, it's going to be difficult, and obviously being a Benfica fan, I want Benfica to do it. But if you're Sergio Conceição, there's no way. Well, there's no way you can be thinking the title race is over. You've got to be thinking, look, we can still do this, and we've got to pull back. Again, games like this, and again, I liken it to sort of the Premier League. We know that Arsenal have got Bournemouth tomorrow. That's a must-win. You have to, those games, because there'll be more difficult ones later, you have to win. Benfica tonight, Famalicão at home, have to win. These are the games that must be nailed on to get all 3 points if you're going to make sure Porto don't come back. For Porto, all they can do is just try and win every game now from the end of the season and see what happens with Benfica. It's not in their hands.
But the main beneficiary here was Sporting, because the gap for them between where they were and where they are, 5 points now between them and Braga. So that's got them re-energized with a significant carrot dangling right in front of them.
Absolutely, and only 7 points off Porto, but Braga are the team that they want to be catching, and Braga have been sensational this season, haven't they? But that absolutely, Sporting, was much winners as Benfica in their own way, because they have to finish third. They cannot finish out the top three teams.
Well, it's interesting because all the clubs have actually released their financial figures for the first half of this season, and you see how important qualifying for European competition is, because quite
Champions
simply,
League specifically.
the Champions League very specifically, and if you consider with all of these sales of players and the hundreds of millions that they continue to generate, they are still draining money at an alarming rate. Porto had lost money in the first half of the season. Benfica lost money in the first half of the season. The only team that won in terms of the financial race was Sporting, who actually produced a profit for the first time in eternity.
Well, they sold both Nunes and Paulinho, didn't they?
But the Porro money hasn't come into that equation yet.
No, like the Enzo Fernandez money probably wouldn't come for Benfica, but Benfica sold Darwin Nunes. Don't forget. So I don't get that.
You just wonder where they're losing
Who's
money.
doing the accounting?
I've got no idea.
Probably my accountant.
No,
I'm joking, Sarah. I'm joking. You're brilliant. I love you. You're brilliant.
Schmidt got sent off last week. Those of you who are watching that game against Vizela, he was getting all sorts of abuse. I mean, you could see it. You could see every now and again he was going like this. The crowd, they were really giving it to him. And he did turn around, and on the way out, he obviously said something, and it was picked up. The referee sent him off, and as he went off, he looked at where the grief was coming from, and he just went 2-0. But Schmidt, first 40 games, 97 goals.
Yep.
So they should get the 100 up tonight.
Well, let's win the game first.
Did he?
When was the last time they did it? 100 goals in 40 games.
This because they're on their way to a record goal haul.
George Jesus. 2009-10, I think. So it goes to show, look, if they get 3 tonight, that's an average of 2.5 per game for 40 games.
Yeah, and
that's good.
Famalicão, by the way, if you're watching Zombiti Sport 4, Famalicão have only actually beaten Benfica on one occasion in their entire history.
Don't say I was there at the time,
football
please.
Club. No, you were.
Okay, thank goodness.
You were playing. No, it's back in 1992. They don't do very well in this fixture, although they're having a pretty good run coming in, and they're in the semi-final of the TACA for the first time in their career, so for the first time of their history, rather. And so, obviously, the mood is good there. And another milestone passed tonight. They will pass the 1 millionth in terms of people through the turnstile
this season. Yeah, they just need 8,000 more. don't they?
Yeah. So that again is going to be a big thing. In terms of the team selection tonight, it is as you would expect. With Bar, Otamendi, Antonio Silva, Grimaldo, who is fit to play tonight. I know there was some discussion about whether or not he was going to play, but he is playing. Neres is going to start on the left with Rafa, who is back. Guedes is not fit enough to play tonight. Sheldon, the young 18-year-old, is on the bench, so we may well see a debut being made there. Rafa in the middle, Jamaria and Ramos. Now, in the midfield, this could be a significant moment tonight as well for either of these two players, because if Arshness or Florentino pick up a card, then they are on a suspension.
Which is not good if Chiquinho is not going to be back in time.
Yes.
Although I still think João Mario can play there as well. He's a player I really, really like. I think he's been brilliant this season. He's played quite often on the right of a 4-2-3-1. I think he'll play on the left, even though the Portuguese league has got Neres on the left. I think Neres is better on the right, cutting in. And João Mario will do the same. But I still think even if one of those do get suspended, the holding midfielders, that João Mario can play there next week, because he's so versatile. He's such an intelligent footballer.
I'll tell you something about João Mario. Despite the fact that he's getting on for 30, in his position, he has scored more goals than any other player in Europe's top leagues. in his position. You've got to take into account he's taking penalties, by the way.
Yes.
Right, so they're not all goals scored in free play.
Still count, Timothy.
It's still got to count, and he's still scoring them, and he's having the best season of his entire
I think he's playing
career.
brilliant. I really like him. At the start of the season, I wondered with the new signings that he might be falling out, but he's just one of those who stepped up, and for me, he's one of the first names on the team sheet.
Well, if you look at that front trio, Neres, Ramos, and João Mario, they've been involved in
Rafa,
sorry, they've been involved in João Mario. Those three players.
João Mario, Rafa, and Neres. You're talking about?
No, João Mario, Neres, and Ramos.
Okay.
They've been involved in 42 of those 97 goals, either scoring or assists.
I thought it'd be more than that.
Well, that's still quite a lot.
How many?
42
out of 97.
Wasn't bad.
That's not even 50%. That's three of your main attackers.
So if there are any relatives of Ramos or João Mario and Neres that are watching this tonight, I'm very sorry. It's just not good enough for Scotland. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I thought that'd be a higher percentage.
I'd hate to be growing up in your house. What a disappointment.
Come on, you can do better than that.
You only got nearly 50% of our entire...
They're three of the attacking... You can't be Neres. You're talking about Neres as well. He's hardly played this season now.
But he's weighed in with
That's
his
why.
goals
Surely with Ramos, Rafa and João Mario, that'd be a lot higher.
No.
You just chose Neres, did you?
Yeah, just chose Neres.
Okay, fine.
Can't please everybody. God, dear me. Wouldn't you hate to have been an underachiever in his company, wouldn't you?
I'll leave it there.
So for Malicão, never won that. Let's be honest, they're not going to win this tonight, are they?
You wouldn't have thought so. I think...
Sousa has said, by the way, look, there are two paths we can go down here. We can either go down
lose heavily.
Yeah, or we arrive and we sit with everybody behind the ball and just try and eke out a draw, which is not what we do, or we have to take risks, and we're prepared to take risks tonight.
I'm not sure that's a good idea, to be totally honest with you. First of all, João Pedro Sousa, number 2 to Marco Silva, wasn't
yes,
it?
for 5 years.
Hull, Watford, Everton.
Did a great job.
Yes, did really well, and I think he's doing well here as well. Certainly did it first time around. I think to go to the Stade de Luge and say we're going to go for it, really?
Well, it's good for us.
It's great for us. I think there's going to be loads of goals if that's the case. I wonder if it's one of those you say something, you can't do that.
Yeah, well,
I mean, come on, with the greatest of respect.
By the way,
you're going to the champions-elect, the best team in the country right now, and you're not a big team yourself, and you're going to go for it.
This is somebody else that's disappointed you tonight, haven't they? Bloody hell.
Don't worry.
I'm terribly sorry about this, everybody. I mean, it's just... Nobody can live up to this huge level of expectation.
They do have a couple of good players. Sanka's very, very quick, and Ivan Jaime is a good player as well.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how they will try and... I just don't see... I think they're good football inside. I don't see how they're going to...
just put out 11 defenders. Would that please you?
No, it wouldn't. But listen, if Benfica win and thrash them, I'm happy with that. But I just think to go to Benfica, the best team in the country at the moment, the table suggests that, away from home as well, and to go for it is utter madness. But we shall see. Who would have thought Gil Vicente would have won at Porto last week?
Well, especially with Fran Navarro getting one of the goals, and he's going to be playing with Porto next season. So obviously endearing himself to his new coach over there. Who, by the way,
he must have given him a look as if
Sergio Conceição was brilliant, because you know that the emotion that is involved with Sergio. I mean, he lives every moment, doesn't he? And to be fair, he did turn up to the press conference after the game against Gil Vicente, and he answered one question and got up and walked out. Yeah, and there was no press conference today for them. And Schmidt, there was no press conference for Schmidt and Benfica as well, because, I mean, he's not going to be there, and he's obviously got the ump as well. So
he can still be in the stands, though, can't he?
Yeah, they'll be in the stands.
He just can't be...
Quick word about Rafa. You mentioned him. He was Player of the Year. voted this week in the 119th anniversary gala dinner thing that they had. So he was Player of the Year, and Antonio Silva was the revelation young player of the year.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah.
I think over the whole calendar year.
I'm glad about that. I was going to be concerned. It's very,
Wouldn't be a triple.
Rafa?
No, Rafa for me was Benfica's second best player last season. Darwin Núñez was the best player.
Yeah.
Obviously now he's gone. Rafa has stepped up. I think Joao Mario's up there as well. But Antonio Silva, we spoke about him. Was it 2 weeks ago? And he's done really well, and he's a future Benfica captain and Portugal captain as well. So.
Ramos, few quotes from Ten Hag about Ramos. Very impressed. Very impressed.
United need a centre forward.
Yeah.
For next season.
Yeah, so did Chelsea.
Well, yeah.
I mean, so Chelsea, although they've got Lukaku coming back.
Well, yeah, they've got Nkunku as well. Lukaku, what do they do with him?
Just a quick word before we finish on the recent imports from Portugal into the Premier League. And we talked about the pressure that's being on their shoulders. This level of immediacy that surrounds their integration into the Premier League. You arrive, you play in the first team, and you deliver. You deliver. Do you think that they're ready for that? That they were aware of the amount of coverage that they're going to get? Because let's not be fair. Let's be fair. Some of the coverage of Enzo Fernandez in particular is being pretty heavy-handed,
Well, I think it depends how you look. I think up until the Spurs game, despite I was at the West Ham game and he was brilliant. Certainly first half, he was bossing it. But I just think he's being dragged down a little bit. But you want your leaders to step up. It's a big game for Chelsea against Leeds. But in terms of coming in, I remember when I went back from Benfica to West Ham. Now, being an Englishman who played in the Premier League beforehand, it still took my body 2 or 3 weeks to. I don't know what it was. My groins were really sore in the first week. I don't know if the pitches were different, the training grounds, whatever. So from a physical point of view, these lads do have to try and adjust. And especially someone like Enzo Fernandez, but even Pedro Porro to a certain extent. A lot of money's been spent, and obviously it's been a difficult start for them.
I read a stat that was produced from somewhere, I don't know who it came from, but they said that Enzo Fernandez has been dribbled past more often than any other player in that position in the Premier League.
Some of these stats, how
did you work that out?
I've seen him intercept, tackle.
Yeah.
But
we said this before he moved. You buy Enzo Fernandez, you're not going to get somebody you're going to drop into that team, and he is going to be the difference between you winning a game.
No, look, he's not someone who sort of, picks up the ball, goes past 3 players and smacks it in the top corner.
Yeah.
But I think he's done pretty well, apart from maybe the Spurs game where he was quiet. I think in the games that he's played, he's shown a lot of quality. It's the other players around him that are not kind of doing the business for him. Yeah. And he's come from a winning side to a side that is struggling at the moment and a lot of pressure.
And what about
Porro? But he must have known the pressure of 100 million. There's a lot of pressure.
What about Pedro Porro? I mean, he's again been drip-fed into the team.
Yeah.
He played the other night against Sheffield United when they were.
I didn't see that game actually.
I mean, they were embarrassing. They were.
You pulling your hair out, were you?
Well,
you still got a lovely head of hair, I have to say. But
well, let me tell you, they were awful.
It's a wig.
Awful. It isn't.
I've got
a wig on. Sanchez. Yeah. Oh. Do me a favour. Why they didn't start with the team that had just beaten Chelsea and the team that had done West Ham?
Look, I mean, we could go on for hours about this, but what I would say is Was that team still good enough to beat a team in the second tier?
It should have been.
It should have been.
It should have been.
It should have been.
But I mean, Porto did not have a great game.
He's not had a good start so far, has he?
Yeah.
But look,
all the things that we saw in his game, the reasons why they're buying him to get down the flank and deliver those crosses that he delivered for Sporting. I mean, they were.
Tim, as I say to you, I went from Benfica to West Ham in January, and I was an Englishman who had already played in the Premier League, and it took me time to readjust. So it's going to take these guys. It's not. They haven't got a pre-season behind them. They haven't got used to the lads off the field as well as on it. It's almost like you're there, sink or swim. And at the moment, they're struggling to adjust. But they're quality players. They'll come good.
Right, we have to go now because we have some work to do. There's a game on very, very soon. We are on BT Sport 4. I think tonight,
I think it is, yeah.
And it is Benfica against Famalicão. So if you're around, do join us for that. Failing that, we'll be back in about a week's time because we're going to be on Sporting Club in a week's time against Boavista, which would be a good game, actually.
Yeah.
And again, another one which is a must win.
And any Arsenal fans should be trying to watch that, shouldn't they?
Yeah, they should be. But there is no way on planet Earth that Arsenal are losing that game.
They shouldn't.
Yeah,
they shouldn't.
But who knows? Edwards, perfect time for him to do all the Spurs fans.
Absolutely.
Get in there and get a goal. Right, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll now sit and mess around and work out how it was that you actually stopped these live things.
Yeah, good luck with that. Still here. And we're still here. I'm going to make myself a tea. Do you want anything?
Yeah, I'll have a cup of tea. Thank you very much, Scott.
Okay. We're still here. Come on, Tim. Come on. You can do it.